circle of the world. We are the three philosophers. We talk about everything. We talk about nothing. We talk about something. Sometimes. Don't be offended, please. We love you. That was actually perfect. That was actually perfect.
We synced up on the
All right,
parts.
everybody. Jason, from the inspiration from Joe Rogan's experience, or Joe Rogan experience, the Joe Rogan experience, I'm sorry. He went to Chile and Peru and did ayahuasca. 3 sessions?
3 sessions.
3 sessions of ayahuasca, and this is his story.
Ooh. Okay. So, where to begin?
Do you want me to start with my D.M.T trips to get you?
I saw the Lord.
Yeah.
He spoke clearly.
Okay. So let me explain to you first off what DMT is. It's dimethyltryptamine. Dimethyltryptamine.
Dick mother transvestites.
Oh my god, I know I'm not saying that word right, but it's pretty fucking close. It's like 99% there. So what it is to consume it through smoke form, it is a orange powder. It's like a burnt orange, like what you see during fall. Leaves are coming off the trees, orange powder. And what you do is you put it in a pipe, like you're smoking marijuana. You put a little weed in there so it'll smoke. You set it on fire like you're smoking a bowl, and that orange powder will burn and you inhale it. DMT is in every living thing on the planet. It's a very simple molecule. Our stomachs process DMT and destroy it so we don't get high. Or else when you were eating a salad or you're eating a cucumber, you get high off your
So that's
ass.
called MAO inhibitor.
Yes, that's what's in your belly to prevent you from getting high. So the DMT powder form only gets you high anywhere between 1 to 5 minutes, realistically. You smoke it like weed. It has the most pungent, gross, nasty smell that once you smell it once, you'll be able to recognize it for the rest of your life. Kind of like crack.
It smells like burnt plastic.
It smells like burnt plastic that hobos were having a gangbang in a hot car with the windows rolled up at 138 degrees Celsius outside. It's pretty nasty. So what you do is you smoke it. 100 and whatever degree is a lot. It's gross. You inhale it and you let your lungs process it, and then the DMT through your lungs processing it, because the powder form has extra chemicals, so your lungs can process it and transfer it to your brain, so the DMT will release so you can get the high. I've done it a few times. The first time I did it, what happened was I closed my eyes and I leaned my head backwards. This was after I was told to take one hit, hold as long as I can, exhale, take another hit as big as I can both times, and exhale. And it'll give you around 2 minutes of a high, but it feels like an eternity. I took these 2 hits, and
Like 4 or 5.
yeah, I wish I took more. Future endeavors. Hello. I took these 2 hits, and I leaned my head backwards and closed my eyes. When I closed my eyes, I completely lost, the realization that I had a human body. And I went to this crazy place where I was inside of a tunnel. And I was shooting through this tunnel as I can only explain as my spirit, my essence of who I am. And I was flying through this tunnel, And all around me inside this tunnel was the most epic geometry patterns that were exploding around this tunnel in thousands of these geometric patterns were exploding and hitting each other like a ripple. Like you throw one rock into a pool and it ripples. You throw another rock right next to it and those ripples hit each other and cause more ripples. Well, when these geometric patterns were smashing into each other, they would cause more geometric patterns. Boom, 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 boom. And they were exploding everywhere, smashing into each other. And inside these geometric patterns were every memory that I could ever possibly remember. Inside these patterns. My my mental memories, pictures were inside these ripples, exploding and hitting each other and exploding into new memories, into new ones. And I was flying through this tunnel what felt like years. And I flew through this tunnel like at light speed. I didn't have enough time to comprehend what memories they were in these geometric patterns that were smashing into each other, causing new memories. But I knew that they were mine. Because at a glance, I would go, oh yeah, I remember throwing that Ninja Turtle Frisbee. Oh yeah, I remember my uncle. Oh yeah, I remember my uncle. My grandmother. Oh, I remember hanging out in the woods and riding my bicycle. As I was shooting through this tunnel. Well, then I opened my eyes because someone started talking to me and I was like, shut up, don't talk to me. I closed my eyes again, and these geometric patterns kept exploding again, but instead of a tunnel, they were in my immediate vision with my eyes closed. And these geometric patterns kept exploding. Well, now, instead of these geometric patterns exploding and have my memories inside, they were the most evil, demonic creatures and clowns that you could ever possibly imagine. And they were smashing into each other, and instead of memories, it was clowns and evil demonic creatures. Just straight 1000% devil, evil, hell, demonic shit. And then they stopped, and the outline of these pictures that were exploding together stopped exploding. And it turned into a picture of a lady wearing a wizard hat. And it was Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter. That motherfucking actress. I don't remember her goddamn name, but it was her. And then someone was like, hey, how's the D.M.T? And I opened my eyes again, and it was gone. D.M.T is crazy as fuck.
All right.
But see, you were just at the gate.
You were just there, yeah.
That's just the gate.
I did get to see on my. So I did it 3 times. That was the first time. The second time, I smoked it in my room, and there is some sort of what can only be described as a they that exists on the other side.
Yeah.
And there was just gigantic white door. It was just in the shape of a door is the only way I can explain it. And it was the whitest, brightest, beautiful light you would ever see in the shape of a door. And when I smoked it the second time, they came to me and they said, you can't pass through the door today.
Ow.
And the D.M.T trip was done.
How do you explain that with science?
We are getting close.
But how do you explain that right now with science?
Oh, I wouldn't know how to explain it with science because there's not enough research going on with it to be able to dive into it far enough to be able to say this or that. That would be like explaining to me, that would be explaining the high you feel when you smoke weed. Like overall, when you smoke an indica or you smoke a sativas, you're like, hey, whoa, the remote's 2 feet away from my hand.
Are talking.
Fuck it. I'm watching infomercials.
Infomercial.
Sativas, you're like, wow, the sun's out. I'm going to go walk and I'm going to go touch some trees and I'm going to lick that thing over there. What is it? I don't know. I think it's a spider web, but I'm going to lick the shit out of it because something's telling me it tastes delicious.
And it totally turned out to be a penis.
There's no way to describe the effects that the individual perceives, but there is a way to describe how the masses would feel towards that.
Okay.
Like sativa will make everyone sleepy. Because the way...
Indica.
That's what I meant to say. The indica will make everyone sleepy and lethargic. Because that's what the THC and the accumulation of the other 4,000 chemicals that are involved in it. But there's no way to say that all of the masses experience through themselves this mental process. Like, what I will see when I smoke indica is it'll make me happy, but it won't be the same as me smoking an indica, or me smoking a sativa. I think I meant to say sativa when I said happy. Me smoking a sativa and making me happy, saying that it'll also make you happy, but it's not going to make you the same sort of happy and the same reasons why it makes me happy that it's going to make you happy.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
What's interesting about DMT and the studies, the lab studies that have been done, is how many common themes mimic one, near-death experiences, and two, alien abductions. So one of the common themes that you described, that apparently thousands of other people, maybe tens of thousands of other people,
is the demonic
all around the world in totally different cultural settings, totally different backgrounds, totally different. This is pre-internet, before people could research and get some sort of memory. Is one is the clowns. Two is some of the demonic stuff. Three is the white light. Some is surgery type events that happen,
like being awake while they're doing surgery.
but being why they're awake.
That's a word for that. I don't know what it is.
But
What?
The word
the DMT,
for being awake while you're getting surgery done.
Oh, yeah.
the smoked DMT seems to be a lot different than the natural plant-based DMTs.
Oh, yes. It's definitely like half of when you get there.
Well, not even that though. Even the trip itself seems to be more mechanical, more almost sci-fi.
What I attribute that to is
the word you were looking for is anesthesia awareness.
Anesthesia awareness. That's Google some of that shit, and you won't be able to sleep for a minute.
That's
or two.
why I didn't go under surgery.
What I attribute that to is could you remind me what you were saying?
Just how different the smoked DMT trips are from plant-based.
Because everyone who does DMT in ayahuasca form, or the smoked DMT, or the eat DMT, experience the they. You would agree, right? They that exists there, that
there's others.
They don't love you and they don't hate you.
Oh no.
There is nothing in their heart or being
No.
that's
different with the plant-based.
That holds you to them.
That's different than plant-based.
And this is the difference that I'm getting to.
Yeah.
They realize that you are in their world because of the edible or the smokable, which only lets you be there for, if you equivocate it to doing the ayahuasca, moments. So that they understand that you're only there for moments. So they show you as much as possible without showing you too much that's going to hurt you.
But see that it's totally different. The plant.
Yeah, but with the plant-based ayahuasca, and this is all just through doing too many drugs. They know how you got there. They're like, okay, look, you smoked it. You used this key to open our door, and that key was smoking. I know you're only going to be here for a few minutes, so I'm going to show you as much and as little as possible to get you there.
No.
But when you do it ayahuasca form, you use a completely different key to open that door. And they go, hey,
That's interesting.
I know you're going to be here for a little while. Let me show you our world.
To a degree, but even beyond that, there seems to be the places that, I mean, your key analogy is pretty good. The places that you're allowed to go, or that you end up maybe going on accident on smoked DMT, seems to be very limited.
Because they know that you don't have that much time there.
But there's also dimension-wise, it seems like you can only get so far. There seems to be only like 3 or 4 or 5 places with smoked DMT that you get to.
And I attribute that to they know the
Maybe.
key you use to open the door.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, because the second time I did it, I smoked it outside and I went and laid in some sand. And I closed my eyes and
Masturbated.
it was California cold, which means it was like 50 degrees outside. But I had already been living there for like a year and a half, so it was like
cold.
I was like, this is fucking cold as shit. So in my brain I was like, when I smoked the DMT and laid in the sand, I went to an entire new world that had completely different functions that this world did. And I lived an entire lifetime, from being born all the way up to being adolescent, learning lessons, being an adult, learning lessons, being older, learning lessons, going through an entire lifetime and feeling like I was there. And what this reminded me of was a parable that I listened to the other day. There was this Chinese philosopher, and he took a nap in the grass, and he had a dream that he was a butterfly. He was a butterfly, and he knew that he was flying around, flapping his wings. Nothing was relevant to him outside the world of being a butterfly, existing in the butterfly realm. Then he woke up and realized that he was a human, and all the human things that existed for him. And he said, am I a human who dreamt that I was a butterfly? Or am I a butterfly that is now dreaming that he's a human?
Wow.
Some deep shit.
Yeah.
And that's what the they does to you. The they make you question the existence of what you and society and people that you know have agreed on as being reality.
When you say the they, to clarify, is THEY.
THEY, because it's not an individual. It's not
It's
an
multiple.
entity. It's not a person. The only thing, when I say they, basically, and I don't like saying this, but basically what I would equivocate it to is being, would be equivocating it to a god that exists outside of the realm of physicality that we call Earth. In the spiritual world, this god that is not an individual or a thing, it is just
it.
It's just it.
Yeah.
Like who helped make the who helped say E equals MC squared? Einstein. In his papers, he when he wrote, he would say God a lot. And people would go, "Oh, Einstein believed in God." But in reality, Einstein did not believe in God. Einstein was using the word God as something that he had yet understood.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I've got a totally different experience.
They that live there is a God that we cannot understand, who tells you things.
Let's get to Jason's interpretation with his ayahuasca. When he did ayahuasca. Let's see.
So like most people,
the differences.
Of course, I had done DMT. I've done LSD and mushrooms, and I guess the biggest difference between, let's say, LSD and mushrooms versus a DMT experience is when you're tripping on LSD or you're tripping on mushrooms, you're tripping.
I wouldn't even put mushrooms in the same category as DMT.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Is that I put mushrooms and LSD in the same category. Is that every time I've done acid or every time I've done mushrooms, I know I'm tripping. You get visuals,
yes.
You get experiences, but I know I still have a sense of self. DMT is exactly. you rip away, like Brett talked about. Your soul goes. You're just gone.
You have no realization that your body exists in this realm.
The ayahuasca was even totally different than the DMT, and a lot of people who do DMT or have done DMT but have never done ayahuasca try to make them the same.
Yeah,
and they're not.
Okay,
they're
so
just not.
Explain to me.
But does they still exist there as the DMT does?
Yeah, I'll explain it.
Explain to me what is ayahuasca.
So ayahuasca goes back at least 2,000 years.
Okay,
which is around the time the Bible was written.
Right. It's Amazonian based. It's a brew that the Amazonian Indians and natives, indigenous peoples made, and it's two different things.
Can you tell?
One is the ayahuasca root, and ayahuasca is a vine, and they call it the vine of death, and a bunch of other things. But the vine itself is actually not the DMT containing hallucinatory substance. Mm-hmm. The vine is an MAO inhibitor.
Yes.
So it's mono oxidate something. But anyway, that's what goes into your gut and allows your gut flora to not destroy the DMT. Usually what they use is what's called shikukra, is a shikukra leaf, which is the highest containing DMT plant in the Amazon. Mm-hmm. So what's interesting about this is there's 500,000 plus plants that we know of in the Amazon.
More than that probably get taken out.
And somehow the shaman have found the one plant that you blend with the other plant that if you boil these two together, then one counteracts the natural immune system and allows the other plant's DMT to get absorbed into the bloodstream. Yeah. And when you ask, anthropologists have gone down, scientists have gone down, and that when they ask the shaman, how did you know that this plant specifically and this plant blended together and boiled at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time creates this? The shaman kind of look at the scientist and the anthropologists and are like, duh, the plants told us. And so the shaman
fucking mind
tell you
blowing
that the plants speak to them. And in shamanic belief, and especially in the Amazon with the Shibubu and some of the Quechua speaking people, all believe that everything has a soul. Mm-hmm. Every living thing on the planet has a soul, and if you just listen, if you're quiet enough to listen, you'll hear what they say. So anyway, I heard, I've had issues with depression and stuff throughout my whole life, and I tried tons of pharmaceuticals, blah blah blah, counseling, blah blah blah. I've been institutionalized, whatever, and nothing ever worked. And I kind of hit the wall when I was out in California working in the corporate world, and I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he had Graham Hancock and Dan Hardy and some other people talking about ayahuasca. And I was like, you know what? That sounds interesting. And so when I moved back to Pensacola, I cashed in my 401k, and I had like a lump sum of cash, and I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I was like, you know what? I've got this bucket list, and a couple things on the bucket list was skydiving. I've done that. One of the things was to see Machu Picchu. One of the things that I've yet to do is to dive with the great white shark. So I had this bucket list, and I started looking into ayahuasca, and I looked at a couple different places, and a bunch of tourists were going to the Amazon doing ayahuasca. But I found this one place, and I don't know if I can say it online, so I won't, just in case. But there is one place that I found that wasn't in the jungle of Peru, where all the ayahuasca places are. This particular place was outside Cusco in what they call the Sacred Valley. And the Sacred Valley is where the Incas were. And one thing that was unique about that area is, one, it's way up in the Andes. It's 14,000 feet above sea level. And two, this specific place had a relationship with the Peruvian Department of Health. And so the Western medicine doctors had looked at the indigenous medicines and were like, there must be something to this. They've been doing it for 2,000 years. And unlike America, they didn't immediately just arrest everyone. They were like, there's got to be something to this. So they actually sent Western medical doctors to the retreat. Mm-hmm. And so for me to go there, I actually had to get a physical in the U.S., take my physical information from the doctors that I saw, send them to this place in Peru, and have their doctors review it before they allowed me to enroll. Mm-hmm. So I had to get a full physical, blood work, the whole thing. And so anyway, I drive from Pensacola to Miami, fly from Miami to Ecuador, from Ecuador to Lima, Peru, which is the capital, and then from Lima to Cusco, home of the Incas, which is 12,000 something feet. And so you're supposed to do an ayahuasca diet. Mm-hmm. And the ayahuasca diet means no sex for 30 days, no salt, no red meat, no processed foods, no canned goods. I mean, there's a whole list that's on the website. And I followed it, to a T for about 6 weeks. And got to Peru. And when I get to Peru, I go to a little hostel. And the hostel, the people from the ayahuasca ceremony people, I can't mention their name. You have to drink this volcanic water.
Yeah.
Which is like effervescent, like soda water, and tastes like rotten eggs. And you drink this until you shit water. Basically, you flush your system. Mm-hmm. And you have to drink 20 glasses in a sitting. So I drank 20 glasses of volcanic ass water until I was just shitting like a racehorse. I've had a colonoscopy before, mm-hmm. and I've done Western medicine stuff that's supposed to clean your whistle so that they can stick a scope up your ass. This was 1,000 times more effective and 1,000 times faster.
Wow.
And eventually I'm shitting clear water. And so they release you fill out a bunch of paperwork, you do an interview, and then the next day you meet them at a park and they take you to the basically the resort, kind of resort. I mean, it's a town of like 300 people in the Andes, which is not too far from Machu Picchu. And so when you get there the first night, they only take 10 people. Mm-hmm. And so 10 people are allowed to go to the ceremony, and there's 4 shaman, 5 assistants, 2 nurses, and a medical doctor. So I go in again, fill out paperwork, do a physical with them. They pull up my online physical information from the U.S. and take blood pressure, take blood, all that thing. But then I meet with the shaman. And the shaman, you do all these ceremonies to Machu Picchu, or Pachamama. And Pachamama is Mother Earth. And so all day long we do these ceremonies. We burn incense. We pray. There's this thing called noble silence. You're not supposed to talk. You're supposed to get your head clear. Mm-hmm. And then that night, for whatever reason, at night is when they do the ayahuasca ceremony. So 10 people go into a room. It's about 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And there's people from all over the world. The first session I did, most people only do one session. Dumbass Jason signed up for the 7-day retreat, which include 3 sessions and a trip to Machu Picchu. But most people only do one to start off with. There was a lady there, mid-20s from Jamaica. There was a business guy there from Greece. There were 3 kind of hippie, 2 boys and a girl from Australia that were in their 20s.
May I interject? What is that guy's name on Joe Rogan's podcast who fucking does the shit out of this and talks about it a fuck ton?
Aubrey Marcus.
Aubrey Marcus.
Yeah.
He changed his name after he did it.
Yeah. So anyway, my roommate, I was there with a Canadian and a guy from Utah, a Reiki master from Utah. So anyway, there's 10 of us. We go in. We don't know what to expect. We all sit on a pallet that's been prepared for us with blankets and a bucket. We're supposed to bring 2 rolls of toilet paper and 2 liters of water. And so there's like an altar, and there's various herbs and stuff, and there's shaman there. And so they had the brew already made, and you go and sit down, and basically they turn the lights off, and you drink the ayahuasca. And it was like a little 8-ounce, 10-ounce plastic cup, and it's this nasty witch's brew of freaking butt. I mean, it tastes like licorice with dirt, with espresso, and it's got the consistency of like a milkshake. And so anyway, I drink it, and I'm sitting there, and probably within 30 minutes, I start hearing a humming. If you've ever been around high tensile electricity, like
that buzzing sound.
like anything over like 480 volts,
Yeah.
I'm talking like in a factory setting where you're around, thousands of volts of electricity. That's exactly what it sounded like.
The loud buzzing.
So I'm sitting like, Indian style on my little mat. It's all dark. And I hear this zzz, electricity. And I'm like, oh shit, I mean, I've done acid, I've done mushrooms. I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm about to trip. And so my eyes are closed, and I see in the blackness, I see this almost like a net. And the net is like high-test fishing line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, fishing filament.
Mm-hmm.
And the net's made out of this clear filament. And if you've ever watched like National Geographic or something, and you see way down at the bottom of the ocean how all these little creatures talk to themselves with light.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this giant net of, I don't know if they're hexagons or octagons, but it's a definite geometric shape. And the net is clear.
A shape of some sort.
It's either an octagon or hexagon, but it's
Yeah.
a net.
Yeah.
And in the clear filaments, there's these bright colors going back and forth, almost like I'm witnessing a switchboard, like the old timey phone systems where you see a switchboard. I'm literally like watching either the internet or watching. There's communication coming from various directions, and the communication is light. And these filaments are containing, blues and reds. And it's almost like if you see the little clear, translucent sea creatures at the bottom of the ocean, how they talk with light. It's like that, but it's going through this net complex.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there watching this, and I don't know what's going on. I hear this humming, and I'm looking at this, whatever. It's an obvious intelligent communication, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these things are talking, whatever's talking. This figure starts coming towards the net that looks like it's in robes, that looks like it's a Buddha of some sort.
Talk about ayahuasca, guys.
It's sitting cross-legged, and it's neither male nor female, and it looked kind of squarish, like pixelated, almost like a Minecraft figure.
Like a monk sitting in front of you.
But like Minecraft.
Okay.
It wasn't good CGI.
Just blocky and
Kinda.
blurry.
And
But you
as
felt that he was a Buddha. That it was a Buddha.
No, it just looked. I mean, it was sitting cross-legged. I don't know what the fuck it was.
Oh. So it just had the representation of a Buddha, not actually.
But as it starts floating through space towards me, right towards the net, I hear probably 1,000 voices that were definitely female, saying, "Let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, let go, just let go."
Yeah.
And I was just like, at that time, I had a little bit of resistance. And as this thing came closer to the net, it reached through, and the net was like a membrane of some sort. And it reached through and grabbed me like in a Muay Thai plum behind the head and just pulled me into its bosom. And when it did, gone. I didn't know. I thought I died. I didn't know where my body was. I didn't care where my body was. I didn't know if I had a body. I didn't know if I'd ever come back to a body. But I was gone. I mean, literally, definitely unlike any mushroom trip, LSD trip, even the DMT trips, it was more shocking, visceral, intense, profound. I mean, I don't have any adjectives to describe it, but it was. I attribute ayahuasca to the second most intense experience of my life. The first being born. So there was coming out of the womb, and there was ayahuasca, and those two episodes of my life were probably pretty close to being similar. And so, next thing I know, it was almost like Ghosts of Christmas Past. If you ever watched the movies Ghosts of Christmas Past, there was some entity with me the whole time. I never looked at it.
Somebody watching over you.
Well, it was with me.
Yeah.
And it was like a guide, and it would literally take me to dimensions, worlds, planets, who knows what the fuck it was doing, but it was like, boom. And I would show up someplace, and I went to 5 distinct places. Some of the people saw me and recognized me as being there. Some people didn't. I don't know the order necessarily of like where I went first. But one of the places that I went to was the beginning of time. And if there is God, I saw God. There was an entity of some sort. There was a presence. I mean, it wasn't visual. I didn't like see the person, but literally it was as if whatever created all of this, everything was there. And I felt the creation of time. I witnessed it. I was there. I was watching it. And it was just all of a sudden, it was like will. It's like there was nothing, like literally nothing. And then boom, there was everything all in one moment. And the feeling I took away from it was sadness. I mean, I saw this happen, and it seemed as if this entity, almost like Atlas, this entity that created everything, call it God, Allah, Muhammad, whoever you call this, whatever it is,
Allah,
Yahweh, I mean, whatever.
Allah, Muhammad.
If it doesn't have the energy and focus to kind of keep shit going, then everything stops. And once it's created everything, it has a sense of attachment and almost like love, almost like you do with your snakes or chants or whatever. Once you have this in your life, you can't just turn away. And so it's almost like once it's created the universe and created everything, it's like now it's kind of stuck and it can't walk away. If it walks away, everything dies. And so it's like I felt a sense of like tiredness, like this thing is tired, but there is no choice. It's got to keep everything going because it loves us. You know, it's and it's a sense of pride. It's created everything. So it's like, well, I've done it now. So now I've got to keep it going. Mm-hmm. But this goes on for eternity.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. That was the first thing. And then it was like, boom. And I showed up somewhere else. And when I showed up at this other place, have you ever seen like the 18th century, almost like, what was the,
Coliseum?
Robert Downey Jr. when he was in that movie?
Iron Man.
No. Where he was like, the martial artist.
Oh, that was
shit.
Sherlock Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes. Okay, do you know that era when they did surgery?
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting in the room.
They thought that because they were gentlemen that they didn't need to wash their hands because only dirty people.
I'm just talking about the environment. So you had the
surgeons.
surgeons.
That time period, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you had the surgeon down at the bottom, and you had this group of people watching them.
Oh, they still do that.
Watching the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I showed up at this place.
I think they still do that.
Only it was like intergalactic, and there was a group of people like watching, right? And down in the center looked like something similar to like Jabba the Hutt. It was this bulbous,
Wookie nipper pinchy,
obese,
I'm horny.
entity, right? And it was regurgitating. And it was like, I mean, like,
that made me wet.
Okay, to the point where bones were breaking.
Whoa.
And teeth were shattering, and all the people watching were like, yeah, get it, yeah, do it, yeah. And it was like,
don't pump your fist like that.
Is there any way that I can interject with this? Okay, that's fine.
You're gonna make me lose my train of thought.
That's fine, go ahead.
Don't
worry about it.
So these entities were encouraging this thing to basically exhibit pain, and pain equaled ecstasy. And it's like the more you could throw up and just like break shit in your own body, like it was like almost like watching an Olympic athlete, right? Hit this level of self-mutilation, and these other people were judging in appreciation of your art. And your art was pain to the point of ecstasy. And the takeaway I got from that vision...
That's some demonic shit right there.
That's
Exactly.
the religion of hell. If you ever watch Hellraiser movies.
The thing I took away from that was that certain dimensions that I were going to were at a different place in time. Maybe they had a different age. And that particular dimension seemed to be very old. And they were so fucking bored with living. Imagine how you would feel if you lived forever. Right? If you live, I mean, think about it. If you lived forever, how bored would you get? How bored would you get?
If I was living in that situation?
No, if you lived forever.
Oh, you would get intensely bored.
I mean, if you lived for 10 million years, 100 million years.
Okay, I'm sorry. So you were immortal.
Yes.
Yeah, you never died.
Yes.
Like
you
Dracula.
never get bored.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd never get bored.
No, you would.
He's the prince of hell.
And so the point is,
powerful thing in
this
the universe.
thing that was doing this, and all these people around them were so bored. You understand what I'm saying? That it turned perverted. That it was a perversion.
Isn't that where we're at in society now?
Oh, not to that level.
Well, not to that level,
yeah.
but we're getting there
Okay,
eventually.
I'm telling the story.
Go.
So, the third place was really weird.
Weirder than
Yeah, that wasn't weird.
masturbating mutilation.
No, that wasn't weird. The third place,
If we're getting you now, this is ayahuasca we're talking about.
made me not want to do it the next night. I was supposed to do it the next night, and I thought these third people were demons. So I show up, and there's this like African drum rhythmic music. Yeah, exactly. And there was a conductor that seemed to be male, wearing like skins, and they were black, but not black African American black.
African American.
They were black like obsidian.
Trump.
You know what I'm saying? They were like translucent,
like
glowing.
The color black.
Well, but like an emerald, but
Blackish
black,
purple.
like black pearl.
Black with a purple hue.
No purple.
That's
Kind of like the
obsidian.
outline of that poster, sort of.
Kind of, but like I don't know how to describe it. But anyway, they were. It wasn't like an African American black. They were like a jewel, and the male was the conductor, and he was like signaling the music, and there was a female that was dancing, and the dancing was like sexual, and I showed up, and at first I was like embarrassed, like it was.
Keep going. He's blowing farts at me right now. African American.
No, they weren't African American.
They were darker than African Americans, is what you're saying.
They were like
male.
obsidian. You know what obsidian looks like?
Obsidian to me,
like
the stone.
shiny black.
Yeah, it's shiny with a little bit of a hue of purple.
Not purple.
It's so
like
dark.
black pearl. Like shiny.
So black that it's almost purple.
Okay. I get what he's saying. I get what he's
black.
saying. No. I get what he's saying.
So anyway, I show up. This thing is a conductor. She's dancing, and it's the most erotic, sexual, drug-induced. I mean, I felt like I was on 7,000 Lortabs at a strip joint, and.
Sweet.
He noticed, obviously, what was happening, the reaction. He's aroused. So the more he played the music, the more she danced. And he was getting off on me, getting off on her.
Okay.
And it was this weird triangle of thing. But then he started realizing that I was like a toy. And he started playing my brain like a xylophone. You know what a xylophone is? Mm-hmm. And he was literally touching notes with sound. And going, me, and my physical body back wherever it was in Peru was, yeah. And he was like, ooh, I can do that? Bing! And he was like touching shit in my brain with sound notes. And it was causing a physical, like violent reaction to my body. And he was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, aren't you unique? And it's like he had never seen a kind of animal like me. And he was like, ooh. Bing, bing, and he was like playing me like an instrument to the point where I felt like I was being molested. I felt like I was being violated. And it was just a weird, intense fucking experience. And then I left that place and I went to a place that seemed like, and this is the fuzziest of all of them, but it seemed like a galactic Olympics. And it's something that starts with a G, but apparently I'm on some kind of team or tribe or like the Florida Gators or Tennessee Volunteer. There seems to be a galactic game being played. And I showed up on this team. And my team, whoever I belong to, used to be the winner. But now we're not, and someone else is winning, but we're trying to be winning again. And it was this, there seemed to be rules, almost like rules to football, like offsides and pass interference. I mean, there seemed to be some weird kind of, but I mean, I don't speak that language. And I kept seeing, and it was all in this weird intergalactic language. And there were thousands of people, and there seemed to be like some kind of weird scoreboards or something. I don't know what the fuck that was about. But I just got a feeling like, hey, you're on this team. I'm like, oh, okay. And these are the rules of the team, and this is kind of the history of where the team used to be and kind of where we're at now. And I don't know what that was about. But then I went to the other weird place, and boom, I show up. And this whole thing that's on most of the tequilas, this crystal skull entity, I saw this entity.
Sugar skull.
And it was kind of like what you described.
De los Muerte?
Yeah,
something.
Yeah, got it.
But it seemed to be like a hall, like a tube, maybe like it was a tube of light, but like a cathedral. And there were people that were almost like if you went to a Catholic church, you have the bishop, right? Whoever's in charge, the Pope, and then you have all these other people. There's a hierarchy. And so there was thousands of these other things that were part of the religion. And then there was the thing. And the thing was a skull with the crystal skull with the eyes.
Was that the main entity?
Yeah, at the end of the tube. And when you show up, you can't not look at his eyes. And it was like so vivid. The lights were like so intense. It was like neon times 1,000,000. And you show up and you're at the end of the tube and you're looking down the tube and there's all these other people chanting, and there's this weird song. Everything seemed to be centered around music. And you look at this dude, and
it's the access to soul.
You can't look away. You look at his eyes, and his eyes are like kaleidoscope spirals. And it's like looking and having an orgasm. You look at the eyes, and you have an orgasm. And he's just like, yeah, he's feeding on it. He knows you can't look away. And when you show up, you look directly into his eyes. You get lost into his eyes. You get sucked in, and you worship. And you melt like a candle. You just melt. And I heard my physical body going, oh, just like melting. And then you pop back up again, and you do it all over again.
Wow.
And then you do it again, and you pop back up, and you do it again, and you pop back up, and you do it again, and you continuously melt, and you're like stuck in this trap, and you're worshiping this dude, and he's like feeding on your adoration. And it
just
seemed
continuous, just never ending,
like forever, till eternity. And it seemed like he got off on like the impression I got from that was, this is the guy that the Aztecs worshipped. He seemed Aztecish. Yeah, he's
the hummingbird
real.
god.
He's real. And this is why they had blood sacrifices, and this is why he seemed demonic. He seemed obsessive. He seemed, it was really
He spoke
weird.
to the Aztecs and the Spanish who conquered the Aztecs.
To the point where, to this day, I cannot look at a crystal skull. I can't do it. I can't. It gives me the heebie-jeebies.
May I ask you a question? So when you talked about the guy who was in the Coliseum type ring, who was puking so hard that he was destroying himself, I read this book a long ass fucking time ago that I only have memories of, where the two main characters in this book went to this new world. And there was an insect-like race that existed in this world. And this insect-like race would brutally sacrifice someone. Like, straight evil murder, super destroy their being and their soul, and just extra kill, murder times 1,000 this person. And then bury them underneath a tree.
Wow.
Or whatever they deemed as a tree in the book. And the people who went to this planet were like, dude, we need to fucking stop this, because this is horrendous. Well, come to find out later in the book, they come across someone, I guess, who can speak their language, and they're like, that's a beautiful ritual.
Oh, let me stop here real quick. What are you, describe what are you talking about? What book? What
I don't fucking remember. I just remember this little fucking story in my memory. But basically what happens is that they end up talking to one of these insect-like creatures who can speak their language. And he's like, whatever that ritual that you witnessed, however brutal and horrendous you thought it was actually a beautiful thing that we hold as very sacred. When that person gets brutally sacrificed and murdered and buried, he becomes part of the whole.
That's
wow.
And it's a beautiful sacrifice for that individual to go through.
So, when I finish going to all these weird places, in reality,
during your ayahuasca,
I don't remember what book it is. I'm super sorry.
Which session was this ayahuasca?
All of that was one session.
This was one. So you're still on the first session.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're talking about a 5-hour time frame.
Wow. Okay.
During which I threw up all over the place. At one point, apparently, I was sitting Indian style with my eyes rolled back in my head, speaking some foreign language. And all the shamans were in a circle around me, holding hands, chanting. And the Jamaican girl woke up from her ayahuasca session and looked at me.
Everybody's starting to...
And left.
Yeah.
Like the next day left.
Okay.
Because she thought I was possessed. And
Wow.
she was supposed to do another session. She paid for it, but she said,
just gone.
Fuck that.
Took a plane trip out.
Okay, so lights come on. I'm still like... I still hear the sound, the zzz, and I'm still kind of tripping, almost like a mushroom trip. Everyone else is like wide awake, like that was cool, you know. Everyone was like completely coherent. I'm the only one out of 10. They have to lift me up, carry me up to my room, which was on the second floor, and I'm still like scared shitless and just buzzing. And the assistant shaman, Paku, comes to me and just like holds my hands and looks me in the eye and was like, I love you, brother. You know, I love you. And they put a heater and they covered me with blankets and, you know, gave me water. And so anyway, I had weird dreams that night. And the next morning I wake up, I'm weak, I can't eat. And we're supposed to do another session that night. And I'm like, I can't. There's no way. And I thought that I saw demons. I thought, I was raised Catholic. And so I just assumed that the crazy shit that I saw were evil entities. And so the second night I was supposed to do it, I didn't. The third night I did my second session. They finally talked me into it, and I did a second session, mostly new people. And it wasn't as intense. This was mostly just the visuals and the sound, because they gave me a lesser dose. Mm-hmm. And they sat me up front, up close to the shaman's altar, because I was the troubled child and they wanted me to be close to them. And so I get halfway through and I have an anxiety attack. I start having this panic attack and I can't breathe. I think I'm going to have a heart attack. And all the shamans and the assistants are coming to me and they're like, just breathe, just breathe. And as I'm tripping, the African dancer people come to me. And, of course, obviously I don't speak Zinubu or whoever the fuck they are. And they come up to me, and in essence, it was like, yo, dude, you want to dance? And I'm like, no, man, I'm kind of busy right now. I'm having a heart attack. And they're like, okay, it's cool. It's no big deal. But for the first time in my life, it's like, generally when someone tells you no on this planet,